you said that this is a role you've loved for a really long time. Mm-hmm. I'd love you to expand on that a little bit. What do you love about Nemorino and about this opera?
Yes, so Nemorino is one of my favorite, arguably my favorite character in all of opera. He is just this opera, Elixir of Love, on the surface can come off as just a farce, a comedy, but Donizetti allows for so much more depth. This opera is really about the triumph of sincerity, and Nemorino, while certainly he does some things that are kind of silly, he has such a good heart, and all he really cares about is Adina and trying just desperately to fight for his love. So I love it. The music's gorgeous. As some of the best ensemble numbers in all of opera. The recits are hilarious. Tons of reasons to love the show.
Yeah. Right. Pasha, what's your experience with Elixir and with Nemorino in general?
My experience with Nemorino, so I've done it 2 times. The first time I was introduced to it in 2015 when I got accepted to Mannes College of Music in New York City. So I did it the first time there, and the second time I did it about 1.5 years ago with the Jerusalem Opera in Israel, and had an amazing time with playing this role. I love Nemorino also for his kind heart, and he's who he is. He's not trying to be anyone else like a lot of people, and it's fun. It's fun role.
Yeah. Did you want to say something, Nama?
It was absolutely gorgeous. And one of our 2 dulcamaras was there too, Yuri Kisin.
Yeah, it's great. You know, there are a lot of folks in this production, as happens a lot in opera. There are a lot of different people that know each other from different experiences over the years, different productions and different jobs. For me, actually, the only person in the cast that I know from before this is Michelle Travato, who's one of our Janettas, but the stage manager and the lighting designer and our costume designer Eric Lamp are all people I've worked with a bunch, and of course Nama from our distant work, physically distant but not emotionally distant work on the Orfeo. Go ahead, Pasha.
Ben, I think I've actually worked with you once. It was very, very quick. I think it was one of the summer festival in Manhattan. I think you staged the Magic Flute.
New York Lyric Opera Theater?
Exactly.
I will tell you something. New York Lyric Opera Theater, and I'm sorry, I will wipe the egg off of my face and say, in my slight defense, that is a group that has like 50 people going in and out of rooms really, really quickly.
Exactly. It was very quickly.
And we were doing Giovanni and flute at the same time, which right away is kind of insane. But yeah, no, right, of course. God, it's so funny. Yeah.
Small world.
It is a very small world. And obviously we're going to be spending a lot of time together in the next, starting really, Tuesday when we start music with Jorge in New York. And then we all get down to Virginia. But I think that you guys both made really good points about what makes Nemorino so special. And many tenors love this role. And I think it because obviously musically it's so beautiful, and you have an aria in una fortiva that is like sort of like Beethoven's Fifth in the sense that it's famous, and it should be famous because it's so beautiful and so iconic. And obviously Pavarotti brought it to the public mind a lot with his performances of Elixir and as Nemorino and in concerts. But I think you're very right that the good-heartedness and the honesty of this guy really are such wonderful things to play, especially in a day and age that has become more and more cynical.
I
And
would
this,
add,
Go ahead.
this opera is actually one of the most good-hearted operas that I know of. Nobody is a villain. I mean, everybody is funny, one way or another. The way we people are funny. And everybody, some people are joking for position more and some less. I mean, of course, Belcore is considerably less, I would say, emotionally captivating than Nemorino, but he's not a bad guy. And Adina is not a bad person, and nobody kills anybody. The worst thing is somebody gets drunk, a little bit drunk, not very drunk.
I would use the word tipsy, but yeah, everybody's. I mean, I think the thing about, for me, the thing about the Elixir is that it really is the quintessential romantic comedy, and I think the challenge that we have is to create the relationships between the Nemorinos and the Adinas that are believable. I think that Donizetti's given us a tremendous leg up in the way that he composes for the two of them. And if you notice, usually in ensembles, they sing the same music. They don't always sing it together, but if Nemorino has a phrase, Adina's answered phrase, even if she's not answering Nemorino directly, is the same music or very similar. And then when they sing together, there's a tremendous melting together of their vocal lines. So I think Donizetti's given us a leg up in the sense that he's telling us musically that these people are really in sync with each other, even if they don't know it, or Adina hasn't, come around to that she loves Nemorino. I think they love each other from the beginning. I think Adina, and we'll talk about this with our sopranos next week, but I think Adina loves him from the very beginning, and she thinks of him, I think, more in that sort of friend zone that we now talk about. But there's never a point where Adina is cruel to him, honestly, until she sees him drunk, and then that's what that offends her and creates a situation where she commits to marry Belcore, which of course really is what really truly upsets Nemorino and breaks the elixir-driven confidence that he's got. But I think you guys both seem to have a real good idea of just the kindness and the goodness of this guy, and it's almost this relentless sweetness. And eventually Adina comes around for a number of reasons, but ultimately she loved him from the start, so it's not that hard for her to come around to loving him.
But I would also add that it's really fascinating, especially with the trio with Nemorino, Adina, and Belcore, because Belcore's music is off.
Yeah.
Nemorino and Adina they're not singing the same music, but their music always relates to one another really, really closely. And Belcore, the first time I heard, the Elixir d'Amore is an opera that we have already done. It was the first full opera, I would say. I mean, the first full-length opera that Opera in Williamsburg did back in 2012 with Jonathan Blaylock. And a really terrific cast also. I mean, I always say about our cast that they are really terrific cast. And there is a very good reason, because there are in this case, there are two really terrific casts. And it's such a privilege to put in the role such terrific people, because then you get a really amazing opera. So what I'm saying is, the first time in rehearsals, when I was listening more closely than I listen when I go to an opera house, and Belcore came in, I thought he was on an off note, except that he wasn't. It was a correct note. It just sounded off in that context.
Yeah.
Donizetti wrote it in such a way that it sounded off.
Well, that's the brilliance of these great opera composers, is that they immediately create character and relationships just by the way they write the music. The text obviously is what drives them, but as you say, Nana, as soon as you hear Belcore sing with Nemorino and Adina, and you think about the triangular relationship that's set up there, immediately you know the two characters that are together because they're together musically, and it's just a matter of when the story will allow it.
Right. By the way, I have to, one thing that we didn't plan for when we planned this Zoom talk was the fact that so many of our singers are traveling right now. They're traveling because we are starting rehearsals in 2 days, and they're coming to get in position for our rehearsals. But the result is that they cannot participate in this Zoom talk. So I'm really happy with the people we have here. We have you two. We have also Stephanie Lupo is from Williamsburg and is joining us in the ensemble. Stephanie, hi. And
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
You're right.
Love to be there, but I can't.
Looking forward to working with you too, Stephanie. The chorus in this opera is pretty substantial. So
yes, it is.
So and nobody, I try not to make these shows into track meets, but everybody's going to have something to do. Everybody's going to be noticed. And as my first director in college said, if there's 300 people in the audience and there's 10 of you, 30 people are watching each of you. So, you will be tell your family to, look out for the business.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Excellent. So, Nama, I'm curious as to why it is that y'all, and this is obviously a pre-pandemic selection, but why you picked Elixir of Love for this production period.
Well, it's a really lovely opera, and we wanted to get another chance to, at some point when what you present is the classical repertoire, and you present it in a small auditorium with not that much space. Okay, first of all, it's a fairly, it's a finite number of operas. And within that finite number of operas, there is a limited number operas that are well known. I mean, I would love to also do operas that are less well known, but there is, I would say, about 50 operas that people know and expect, more or less. Out of them, there are some that we just can't do. Okay, we cannot do Don Carlo. We cannot do The Wing. Okay, so out of that group of operas, the Elixir is just such a wonderful one, and we did it. It was the first one we did, and we wanted to do it again. Now that we can have a much fuller orchestra, and we can have the entire stage, we can have costumes that are, by the way, I'm very proud of the look of that first Elixir. We had modern costumes, but they were very good ones. Pasha, see you in a couple of days.
Bye-bye, Pasha.
Stay.
And
thank you so much. Thank you. Good seeing you. Looking forward.
Anyway, so I'm very proud of what we did back in 2012, but I also would love to get a chance to get at this really wonderful opera again. And this is the second opera that we are repeating. We repeated the Traviata in the 2018. So unlike Pagliacci, which we just did in June, and which was picked because of the pandemic, because it was the right, the right kind of opera to present outdoors in that particular set of circumstances. Ben, you are right that the Elixir was picked earlier than that and was originally planned for September 2020.
Yeah.
So we are finally getting to do it.
It's such a terrific piece. It's so sweet.
And I'm so happy about that. I'm happy that we are doing it, and I'm really happy that we are doing it with two casts.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and as it always is in every double cast situation, to see just how everybody, the double casts, work together with me as a director and with Jorge, and to create the performance. The performance, I think, my experience with double casts is that it's not quite exactly the performance that Jordan would give without Pasha also working on the role at the same time, and vice versa is true as well. And Mike, the company I run here in New York, the Bronx Opera, always does double casts, and it's almost like you have two different productions of the same opera. But also, what's interesting to see too is that there have been friendships, 20, 30-year friendships that have been formed by people who were in the casts as doubling each other. And there's a wonderful collegiality, which I find, if that's actually an English word, which forms, and the creation of the character isn't just this separate walled off thing. It's something everybody works on together.
Let me add to that first of all, people are asking me who is going to be singing in which cast. And my answer to that is I don't know, and nobody knows at this point. We will decide that during the rehearsals. But also, I would really recommend to anybody who loves opera, come and see both casts. Because the opportunity to see an opera, first of all, when you see, like reading a good book twice, you see more, but in this case, you end up seeing something that's the same and not the same. You see how with the same director and the same conductor and the same orchestra, you end up with two compatible, beautiful, and different experiences.
Jordan, have you been involved in double cast situations before, and what have they been like for you?
Yeah, so most recently, a couple years ago, at East Music, we did Don Giovanni, and I was double cast as Don Ottavio in the show. And it's the way like someone will perform is just automatically going to impact the way you do something, and it grows, and the way we struggle, where when we really nail something, it really informs the other. And there's sort of nothing like being in the trenches with someone. I totally get what you mean about these 30-year friendships that form. You getting to breathe life into the same role as someone else, to share the joy and the burden and the responsibility, and to support each other working through it. There's kind of nothing like it. So I'm very excited to get to do it again.
Yeah, it can be a lot of fun.
I'm sorry, Ben, go ahead.
I was just going to say it can be a lot of fun. And my experiences on stage too, when I've been double cast, have been very much like that. I've been lucky. Sometimes they can be difficult situations, but usually, I think almost 95% of the time, the relationships are very smooth and everybody works well together, and you do have this bond. Nama, you're going to say?
I was just going to say, first of all, that in this case, definitely, there is no first and second cast. Both, everybody in this group is really superb. Everybody is somebody that not only would love, I do love getting you all to perform. I really look forward to everybody's performance with the same excitement. And also, I was going to say that in general, the public idea of the opera diva or divo is really wrong in a very basic way, because opera is the ultimate group sport. You can't do an opera alone. You can be a singer alone. You cannot do an opera alone. You have to rely on your castmates. You have to support your castmates. There is no way to do it otherwise. And if you don't do it, nobody would take you. We can't, if you offered me somebody with the best voice in the world, who is not a supportive colleague, I couldn't afford to take him, because it would destroy the opera. I mean, that particular person would sing beautifully, but the opera would be bad. So the people who actually work in opera, and I'm not unique, okay? The people who work in opera are really, really supportive colleagues. They have to be, okay? And they are. It's wonderful to see that. So, so again, I mean, the idea of it's one of the things that the more I know about opera from the inside, the more I know about how operas are put together, the more I admire this ability to come together with a new group of people, some of whom you may know from before, and some of them and others you don't know. You have to rely on one another, and you do rely on one another, and you support one another, and each of you is doing something new and creating something new, which is absolutely magnificent. And everybody in Williamsburg, come and see it, and come and see it twice. I really, really, really suggest coming and seeing this particular production twice.
I mean, really, you could just come all 4 times and just, save yourself the worry of picking which one, and then you mistakenly come and you see one. Just to come to all 4 performances. That's my advice.
It's not, our tickets are, by opera standards, our tickets are a bargain.
That's what I'm saying. And everybody's good. And we'll obviously figure out the casts and divide that up. And Jorge mostly, but we'll certainly will know a lot when we hear you sing together in a few days. But I'll tell you, I don't think we can really do this wrong, because I find that good performers and good singers and good colleagues, you can combine them in different ways and they will work well, and the chemistry will kind of adjust itself a little bit. There are times when it's just obvious, and if there are visual things where you come into a rehearsal and you say, well, this combination doesn't work. But usually with good people, any combination can be good.
Right. Stephanie, you wanted to say something? Were you trying to say something? Does somebody need to unmute? Okay.
No,
She's
I was just saying what you do in Williamsburg is amazing. I mean, every production that you have done so far has been unbelievable, and what a wonderful gift to give to Williamsburg, Nama.
Thank you so much. I am having fun. I'm really, really enjoying this, because you see, unlike all of these people who are there on the stage and they don't see themselves, I see them, and I really, really love it. The one I would say limit, and the one thing that I'm so thankful to the Williamsburg audience for, is support. I mean, we can't do it without without support of the public, and the public means people like you. Actually, I think that you are one of our donors, among other things, and other people who I know are listening, and people who I know are coming to the opera. If people locally didn't, you see, there is no, I didn't know it when I started, but there is no way to cover the cost of opera, certainly if you have more than a few instrumentalists, just by ticket sales. There is no way to do it. I mean, the cost of the ticket would have to be so high that nobody would buy. So it has to, the rest of the money has to come from somewhere else, and that somewhere else is donors. We also get some grants, but primarily it's a matter of donors, people who are saying, we love what you're doing, keep on doing it, and here is what we can give you to keep doing it. As long as you all are willing to support us, believe me, I'll be there and continue to do it. With wonderful people like Jorge Parodi and Ben Spearman and the other directors we had. And it's a wonderful group of people. And the supporters are also a wonderful group of people.
Let's see.
Eric, there by any chance?
Yeah, I don't I do not see the great and powerful Eric Lamp as yet. What was I going to say? Well, Stephanie, I was actually going to ask you something. You're in a kind of a unique situation in this show. We'll have a couple of I can't necessarily call them kids because they're 17 and 15 in this show, but you know, as an adult, you know, obviously you have a professional life, which unlike, you know, Jordan's and mine and Pasha's and all the rest, we're opera professionals. This is what we do for at least as much of a living as we can. But
Right.
for you, you're in a place where you're making a choice to join in with us, not just sitting and watching, but being on stage. And I wonder what have you, first of all, have you been in shows before? I'm learning about people as I go here today a little bit. Have you been in shows before, Stephanie?
Yeah, I was singing with the Virginia Opera too prior to the pandemic. And I've been in their chorus for the last couple of years with all the last 3 shows they've done. But with the pandemic this year, he's just doing his principals and his young artists because he doesn't want to use a whole bunch of people quite yet.
Sure.
But I've sung a lot in New York and sung in Italy as well. But I wanted to be involved with Nama for such a long time because I love what she does. And I was so thankful when she asked me to sing the ensemble, because I thought that would be a wonderful thing, you know, to be involved with this great company.
Thank you so much. And Maestro Parodi is, by the way, any casting, if anybody is curious, it's him and me together. Nobody knows who brought up whose name, and it's always a consensus. In other words, if it's not a consensus, it's a no-go. Okay.
What do you feel like? So, when you've been in productions before, Stephanie, what do you get out of it for yourself? What does it satisfy for you?
Well, it depends what opera I'm doing. So the last one I was involved in was Aida with Virginia Opera before the pandemic. And I've sung the role of Aida, but then to be in the chorus and be involved from that aspect was amazing. And the amount of people that were on the stage and working with young kids, middle-aged, younger kids, and then high school kids, it was unbelievable. And then all of us in the chorus. So that perspective was very exciting. And just to see it from a different perspective than me being in front singing Aida, and then me now being, you know, in the choir and hearing this was wonderful. And I really learned a lot about myself, and being in the chorus was a lot tougher than actually singing the role of Aida, you know, but it was good. It's a great learning experience. Everything I try to do, if I'm in an ensemble, I learn more about who I am and what diversity I can do and how I can help bring this production, you know, better, you know, give them my voice and stuff. So that's what I try to do with each thing. That's what I take away.
That's great. That's wonderful. Yeah. It's being in a chorus can be, I think, harder than playing a principal role. I think a lot of times it is because, for one thing, often the chorus sings more than a lot of principal roles do. And you don't get that immediate feedback necessarily of your own voice ringing out in the hall. And so you kind of have to balance, you kind of have to trust your mind and your sense of your own voice to not oversing. And it can be very easy to find yourself just realizing that you get to the end of the night, you're just blown out. And that's a major challenge of singing in choruses and choirs in general, I think.
Exactly. Learning how to blend is the key. You know, listening to whoever you are next to, that's how I make sure I'm in check, that I'm not singing, that I'm, you know, blending with them, making sure I'm soft, that we can hear their voice and I can hear the other voice on side of me, so I'm not sticking out. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, now, I'm not a singer. I'm not a musician. I'm a music lover. That's a whole different thing. but I would say this time with the Elysir, it's going to be different yet again, because we have a very small ensemble. It's an excellent ensemble, but very small. So each voice really, really matters.
Yeah, and there's a, sorry.
The thing I love about Maestro Parodi's work is the attention he gives to all the ensembles and all the chorus. The choruses end up being small ensembles, really. And the attention to details, to starting with something that's very good, with singers who are very good to begin with, voices that are very good to begin with, and people who are great musicians to begin with, and polishing it to a higher level is just amazing.
And this particular opera, sorry, go ahead.
Examples from all of our operas.
I was just going to say that this particular opera has one scene, which is a women's chorus scene, really. It's a point where the women have found out that Nemorino has gotten this huge inheritance from this mysterious rich uncle. And the women's chorus, well, Jeanette tells the women's chorus about this. And it's really one of the great scenes in this opera, and really almost in any opera for me. I think it's just such a delicious, beautiful sort of confection of a scene that Donizetti's put together. And with a group of women, I think we'll have 3 women singing plus Jeanette at any given time. So this isn't 8 on a part. This is 1 on a part. And you become, each of you in that scene will have Jeanette and the three ensemble women, but it's not even a correct way to put it. It's really 4 soloists. It will be 4 soloists, dramatically, musically, and the women's chorus gets a tremendous amount of focus in this opera, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to have our group do it. It's always such a fun scene, and I've done it before with a larger chorus and with a smaller chorus, and this is one of those times when the smaller ensembles really can be a very good thing. So, yeah.
Then, by the way, I really appreciate the fact that you managed to get younger people as supers this time. I know it's not easy to do. Not easy to find people who would commit.
Yeah, we're really lucky, I think. I mean, I don't know them yet, but I think these kids are, again, there's I gotta get the numbers right. It's a 15-year-old boy who's going to basically be Dr. Dul Kamara's assistant mini-me character, although he's like 5'5", so I don't know how much of a mini-me he's going to be, but we have 2 twin sisters, it's 17-year-old twin sisters who are, I think are going to be Belcore's groupies, because I mean, somebody has to like the guy ultimately. I mean, Adina not so much. Now Maria, Dul Kamara and Belcore, their interactions are actually actively hostile in the little bit that they have. So it'll be fun to have them in. But yeah, these are kids who've done a lot of theater around Williamsburg. They're very experienced, mostly the big musicals and non-musical plays, and these are pretty serious. These are kids who seem very serious about, at least maybe trying this as a career, and their mothers are really gung ho for them to do it, and it's
Now,
been.
They're definitely going to be a part of the action.
What's that?
They're definitely going to be a part of the action. I don't believe they're supposed to sing.
No, they are part of the action. This is this term supers or supernumeraries, which are basically in opera at the Met they call spear carriers. These are people who are involved in the action dramatically, but don't sing. That's correct. And so there's a certain amount of flexibility in what you can have them do, because obviously you want the voices to be able to have the singers to be able to have a chance to sing. And of course, in a group like this, when you have an ensemble of 6, you can't strip away people to do stuff, and if you can't do that. And so we have the advantage of having these 3 other people who can sort of fill out, really populate this town that you're creating. You're creating and our Nemorinos were sort of alluding to this a little bit, but the relationship that Nemorino has with the other people in the show is an interesting one too, because as Nemorino becomes, Nemorino is I think some people like him and some people think he's just a fool. And the relationship that you guys will have with the individual choristers is going to be an interesting thing to sculpt. And it's something that frankly, the individual choristers can relate with, can create with you guys. But anyway, kind of going off the track here. But yeah, these three teenagers will be involved in the show. They will be important parts of the dramatic structure that I'll create. And they all seem really serious. And of course, with Nama very correctly, especially, and it's getting to be more correct every day, put in the rule that we all have to be vaccinated. And obviously kids under 12 and under can't be vaccinated at this time. So that ruled out the younger kids. So we've got this interesting dynamic where we have three young folks who really they're young adults. They're not, I would call them young adults. And so we've got a great group of people, all of whom are vaccinated, they're vaccinated, and who will be able to work together to create this thing in Williamsburg. But yeah, it's really great to be able to get these kids and their mothers, because don't kid yourself, the mothers matter a lot.
Oh yeah. Let me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's a 11:15 at night here, so I had an idea in mind and lost it. So,
It happens.
What I was going to say. I was going to say this is one opera where I feel utterly comfortable having young people be a part of the story. Let me give you a different example. Rigoletto is a gorgeous opera, and we did it. You could not, it would not have been right to have young people in the court of the Duke of Mantua. We had supers that were adults, okay? Traviata, you have two party scenes that are absolutely not right for youngsters, okay? And here we have an opera where even though it's not written with a children's chorus like Bohème or like Carmen, in both of which actually the children are not really a part of the story, they're just, a little bit of diversion.
Yeah.
Here you have a situation where young people can be a part of the story and it's absolutely comfortable because it's such a good-natured opera. And it's not even a matter of comedy versus tragedy, because let's say the Fledermaus is comedy, it's fun, it's beautiful, it's not for children.
No. Those are definitely adult stories, and the scenes should be played by adults. And I just had flashing through my mind, having worked on a couple of the Broadway junior musical theater pieces. I don't know if you've run across those. And sometimes I was involved with a production of the Broadway junior version of Fame. And there's just a whole storyline in that. There's a character that dies of a drug overdose. They just do not talk about it. They're there in scene 4, and by scene 5 they're gone, and you never talk about them. But and that's the challenge with some. Operas have some pretty adult stories. Rigoletto does. Obviously, let's not even talk about Don Giovanni. There are a lot of shows in Fledermaus. You wouldn't want kids in the Fledermaus party. That would not be where you would want children. But I think what's cool about having younger people having a spread of ages in Elixir is that you are looking at a town. You're looking at what should be a population of a small town, and in a small town you have people of ages ranging from high to low. And it's weird sometimes when you see a production that just has everybody's 30 years old, and it makes you wonder, was there a plague not to make light of that, God knows, but like, was there something that made the population all be the same age? But that's not how life works. You have a spread of ages. I mean, that's not how it works. So it's cool in the Elixir because you're experiencing the life of people who have relationships and live in a town together, that you're able to have this spread. So I'm grateful. I'm really grateful that they're on board. It's really going to be fun. And I just want to say one thing about what Jordan said early on, which is that, yeah, the Elixir can be looked at as kind of slapstick and funny, and Nemorino especially can be just a joker. But I think there is a lot of depth to it. There is there's a humanity to the relationship between Adina and Nemorino. It's very recognizable that Nemorino comes to Adina and tells her how much he loves her, and she says, I like you, I'm sort of paraphrasing, you're my friend, but I don't feel that way, and also I don't want that. I don't want a love relationship. And it relates a little bit to the fact that Adina has her own economic power. And at the time when this was written, if you wrote, the husband kind of had the power financially if he married a woman who had money. So Adina has a position. Adina's a landowner. Adina has her own money and she's the boss. And she clearly is comfortable with that. And then there comes a point where her love for Nemorino kind of, I don't want to say overtakes her, but it's kind of right. It kind of overtakes her. But there is a very real relationship here. And there's jealousy, which we all have experienced. And there's, Nemorino gets annoyed and then he has the Elixir, and then he sort of taunts her a little bit, and she gets annoyed at that, and then she's going to marry Balcori, and Nemorino gets her. All of this, it's got a verismo quality in the sense that the emotions are real. So, yes, sir.
Sorry, and if I may just jump in, and a point that you raised earlier about how we're so fortunate as singers to be working on this opera where so much of the dramatic work is done for us by the composer. And you look at the aria that you mentioned, Una furtiva lagrima. If you were just to read the libretto, you would think this would be set in a major mode, maybe a faster tempo, but instead you have this darker minor mode key until a cielo si può morir. And to me, it's, he sees finally a sign that she does care. He mentions it in Act 1, non son capace lieve affetto ad inspirare. I can't get her to feel anything for me. And he finally sees a tear, but instead of, oh my God, she loves me, and he does say that, there's this, like, when you're in love with someone and you see them shed a tear, even if it's the greatest moment in your life, you just want to hold them and hug them. And Donizetti really understands the depth for Nemorino in that moment, and so many places in the opera for Adina, that just goes a level deeper than the story seems on maybe the first perusing.
Definitely. It's great to hear you say that too, because immediately I know that you understand who this guy is, and that very basic work is already done, and now we can play and create the specifics. I also wanted to just say that I think in addition to the modal issues is the wrong word, the modal choices Donizetti made, also the choice to give the bassoon such a prominent role in introducing the two verses. It's such a mellow instrument that has this level of sadness, and introduces the fact that, as you say, Jordan, the text may say one thing, but the music says a little more and is underscored both by the choices he makes in terms of instrumentation, but also in terms of the way that he writes the vocal line. This is why this composer has written so many operas that are performed almost 200 years after he wrote them. I mean, this is a major guy, and
this particular one, I mean, others are also gorgeous, but this particular one is the most good-hearted.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing I would say, it's really funny. If you look at Adina, I mean, she's a person, she has to deal with the fact that everybody wants to marry her, every guy. Every guy who happens to be free. She's beautiful, she has property. She's also bright and learned, but well, they can deal with, they're willing to take that, you know, if they get the beauty and the money. And she has to figure out, everybody says, please marry me. But she can only marry one.
Right.
And she has to figure, and one way to deal with this situation, that's also the Turandot situation. Turandot is a princess, and the only way she can deal with it is off with her heads. Adina is not a princess. She says, maybe. You know, she learns to play that field, but she also has to figure out who really feels for her, who wants something more than just her money and her face.
Right.
And it's something that's easy to figure out. And that's why when she finds out that the Nemorino sold himself to the army in order to get a chance to reach her, it means a lot.
Yeah, he really, I mean, and he hands himself over to Belcore, who is obviously his opponent in this game of love.
Belcore, I mean, that's clear from the music. Okay. She's used to playing with people. Not in a cruel way, but
well, I think you make a good point that she has to pick one. And that there are a lot of people, I'm sure, outside the bounds of the story who also would like to marry her. And as you say, you know, she's got a position. She doesn't need to get married in order to live, have a living. She is able to live without that. And so what she ends up realizing is that she doesn't want to live without Nemorino. She loves Nemorino. And she doesn't have to marry Nemorino. She knows that Nemorino has money, even if Nemorino does. She knows it before Nemorino does, that Nemorino has some money. So she knows that money isn't going to end up being why he's marrying her. And he's already told her that he loves her. And so there comes this point where she realizes, and I think that the point that where she finds that Nemorino has enlisted, and what I meant to say before was he's actually enlisted through Belcore, which is even more, you could even say somewhat humiliating for him. You know, I've given myself, I'm taking this chance. This is the only chance I have. He's rolling the dice, and he's kind of got nowhere to go back from because he's stuck in an enlistment which is going to last X number of years, and so he's put himself in that position. But then Adina buys the enlistment back, and that's the statement of love for Nemorino. And after a few pages of conflict, we come to them both, them coming together, which is it's a beautiful moment. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful show, and I think Nama's right that it's a very sweet show. It's very unusual. A lot of comic operas can have a cruelty to them. And we see this in comedy today. Comedy a lot of times works through the prism of cruelty, you know, either whether you're making jokes on yourself or on someone else, whereas this opera mostly doesn't work that way. I mean, his other great comic opera, Opera Buffa, Don Pasquale, which I love a lot, there's a lot more cruelty in that. And, you know, it's a comedy where there's the nastiness of that people can wreak upon each other comes more to the fore, whereas that's not so much this, especially not between Nemorino and Adina. Hello again, Nama.
Hi, I'm sorry, my phone just ran out of charge. I apologize. I'm using Kineret computer now.
I see.
Mm-hmm. I did not change my name.
We know who you are, Nama. So Jordan, any other thoughts since we're able to have this unscripted conversation? You don't have to. I hate to put you on the spot like that.
Oh, no, sure, no problem at all. Yeah, I love what you, Sean, about the stakes for the character, for Nemorino specifically.
Oh yeah.
Um, that he literally is to the point that just for a chance to make this elixir work faster and maybe win an infection from this doctor that trusts implicitly, but nothing's worked so far. He literally sells himself into the army, and he's not a big, strong guy. Um, Ai perigli della guerra, io so bene che sposto sono. He knows that he couldn't even die in the army, but just to get a chance that maybe she would love it. Beautiful. Um,
It's a very romantic gesture, and it obviously touches her.
mhm.
It makes things a little clearer for her. You look like you had another thought that was trying to work its way to it, but I may be wrong.
It's
Putting
possible.
words through mouth.
Things come and go. I don't have the excuse of a time zone. I'm just a little scattered with working with this planning, but yeah,
Where are you, Jordan? Actually,
I'm in Connecticut right now.
how's the rain up there?
You know what? It wasn't as bad as we thought, but yeah, it's a nice way to just sort of wash everything free and get ready to get on to rehearsal.
Yep.
One thing I don't know if many people feel on the call, but something that Mama brought up about donations with opera.
You're a little quiet, Jordan.
I'll use my support. No.
Excellent.
Something that Nama brought up about donations with opera. I don't know if there's anyone listening currently that's donated or is considering, but it has meant so much to all of us who are professional musicians, aspiring professional musicians. During catastrophes like a pandemic, the first thing overboard usually are the arts, and the fact that someone cares is just it renews a lot of hope for me, and I'm just so grateful to get to be here and get to perform and be in live music again. So thank you.
Absolutely.
It's going to also be great fun to get back and do a piece like this together in the same room, and for an audience that's also in the same room. And I mean, we're obviously still in the thick of this to an extent, but and you need to stay safe and be smart. But I think it feels like this is another step in something like reopening, and the Zoom stuff was. I mean, I think this medium, this Zoom, in a lot of ways saved us, because I think that the ability to communicate relatively freely, and even to use Zoom and platforms like it as a venue for performance, was really a lifesaver. We were able to do something. I think the Orfeo that we did was, I mean, it was a very real creation. It was a real artistic creation. It wasn't just something that didn't matter. But I think obviously we all want to go back to live, and it's great to have a smaller chorus, but a chorus nonetheless to work with. And I think, yeah, we're all very grateful, those of us who are involved in this, for what you've done, Nam, and bring us all together and give us a chance to do what we love to do. I mean, this is our profession, but it's fueled through love.
Yeah, that's what I do. That, in a nutshell, is what I do. And I would add to that, I'm sorry, again, it's late at night here after a long day. I'm sorry. I had it on the tip of my tongue, and it's
Sure, it'll come back to you. I'm sure it'll come back to you.
Yes, of course, recording. I know, we are very happy that people are buying tickets and coming into the theater. And please tell your friends, there are still seats, there are very good seats, there are marked seats this time. That's a new thing for us, by the way. You all don't know it, but until now, people just had to come and take the seats, pick seat, general admission. Now we are able to actually sell specific reserved seats. We have a different ticket selling system. My point is, I know that some people, for one reason or another, are not able or not willing, which is the same thing, to come to the theater at this time. We always record our operas professionally. We will this time also, and we will make sure that the recording will be available to supporters later on. It will take time. We recorded our Pagliacci and it's still in the works. It takes time before it all gets edited, but it's really, really worth seeing. And anybody who likes what we do, but is not comfortable coming into the theater yet, will still be able to enjoy it.
That's great. That's great. And you can create new audiences that way. Those folks don't have to be anywhere near Williamsburg to appreciate it. That's one of the things about the recorded operas is that suddenly, oh, I missed the performance is almost no longer an issue because the performance exists. So that's great.
Yes, the problem is you still have to find the time to watch them.
You do.
And the fact that you can watch them at any time sometimes means that you never watch them because you wait for the right opportunity and it never comes. Yes, but
Sure.
The other thing I would like to say, pandemics are not new. And operas having to stop their work because of epidemics is also not a new thing. If you read I'm a historian. If you read the history of opera, you'll find, at this time they had to just stop everything and, go to their country villas because there was this epidemic and that epidemic. It may not have been a pandemic, but it was bad enough where it happened. Opera survived. Opera seems to be quite resilient. People have been pronouncing its death for the last 400 years, ever since it started. It's people, enough people care about it to create it. I mean, people like you are crazy enough to go and make it and do it professionally and believe it. It's crazy. I'm the first person who will say it's crazy, but it's a wonderful crazy. Okay. Now, not everybody who wants to do it can do it, as you know very well. There are way more people who want to do it than people who actually put in the work, the tremendous amount of work, and have the talent, but the talent without work doesn't cut it, to get to the point of being able to do it professionally. And a few of such people will get an opportunity, and they still need people like Opera in Williamsburg to give them the opportunity, not a first opportunity, just an opportunity globally to do it. One more case of an opera being performed and enjoyed. Let's do it.
Yep. That's what we're gonna do. Yay.
Ben, I saw the Pagliacci, and I just want to say she made it very safe for all of us. I was actually in the parking garage and saw it, and she had us all spaced out, and it was incredible. And people were so excited for the first note to be sung. You could feel it in the audience. It was amazing. It was totally amazing. So if anybody has any worries, please don't. She has made it very safe.
Thank you. We try our best. We go by what the norms are. Yeah. In this case, the norms are set by the theater. In other words, yes, with Pagliacci, we were socially distanced and outdoors. Yeah. This time it will be indoors, no social distancing, but with masking for the audience. Right.
Good.
Okay. Guys, everybody here, see you all very, very soon. I'm still in Israel tomorrow night. I'm getting on the airplane, early AM on the next morning. I'll be in New York. I hope not to fall asleep at the rehearsal. Although I would have to say I'm the one, if I do fall asleep, I'm the one person who wouldn't do any harm if I do fall asleep. If I snore, wake me up.
Yes, I promise if you snore to elbow you.
Right. So,
Great to see
goodbye.
you. See everybody.
Everyone,
See everybody
see you
soon.
soon. And we do need support. Anything that you or friends of yours or anybody you can talk to and convince to pitch in, every bit matters. Okay? Please. Bye.
See you
Bye.
soon, everybody. See you soon, Jordan and
See you soon.
Stephanie. Nama.
Bye. Bye, Ben.
Bye,
Bye,
Jordan.
Jordan. Safe trip, Nama.
Thank you.
Yeah, Nama. Bye.
Mhm.